What's up, Matrix, and welcome to Was a Matrix. Today we're focusing on your exam guide for Geography Paper 2. My name is Looney, and I'll be assisting you to get all of your questions through to us. All you need to do is hit us up on our social media pages. Just search for Was a Matrix, and also our WhatsApp line. All of the details are on the screen, guys. As always, we've got a fun competition going on for you, so please do stay tuned because I'll give you those details later on in the show. I'm not alone. With me are my sign language interpreter, Nicolene, as well as Cameron. Thank you so much, guys, and over to you.
Thanks, Looney. Thanks, Nicolene. Welcome, guys. Geography, geographers, grade 12. Yes, today is an overview of Geography Paper 2. We're going to give you the skills required and prepare you so that you can walk into this examination successfully and walk out knowing full well that you've done your best. Yes, you know what we're talking about: topographical maps, orthophoto maps, protractors, rulers, pencils, calculators, you name it, it's all got to be there for you to do well. Let's get into this examination and understand what are the requirements, what you need to do before you go. So, let's get into it. Geography Paper 2 is made up of the following: 4 questions. Each question tests a different component of all the geographical knowledge, geographical skills and techniques that are required in this examination. Question 1 is multiple choice questions. These questions cover the entire syllabus of map work, from grade 10, progressing to grade 11 and grade 12. The bulk of this content is from grade 12. However, some of the skills that you've learned over the years will help you better answer these multiple choice questions. Looking at question 2, yes, calculations. All these calculations that you've been doing from grade 10 to grade 11 are consolidated into grade 12 and posed as question 2 for this examination. Question 3, map application and interpretation. Here, we're bringing in all the geographical knowledge from theory, Geography Paper 1, and integrating it into the map of choice for this examination. And what must happen? You've got to be able to remember all the different aspects of your theory content and apply it to the map that is being used. Question 4, GIS, Geographic Information Systems. What are we talking about here? The technology that supports geography, how we understand the earth in terms of what technologies are there. Most importantly is your GIS concepts. When you walk into this exam, have a thorough knowledge of all those geographical concepts that you've done in GIS. Let's go deeper into the examination. For this examination, remember that multiple choice is across the map work curriculum. Calculations, and especially interpretation of these calculations using the map and the orthophoto map. Map application questions, remember, is integrating geographical theory, and as we've indicated, the GIS theory as well as GIS applications. By this we mean, how are you taking those concepts learned in GIS and applying them to the types of questions you are getting in this examination? Note the totals. Your multiple choice questions are of 15 marks, the calculations for 20 marks, the applications for 25, GIS for 15. This simply means that you have a total of 75 marks to be answered in 1.5 hours, 90 minutes. So time management is crucial in this examination. How you manage your time in answering all these questions is also going to be determining how successful your responses are. Let's go further. In this examination, note the following, that there are no 2 maps that are the same. Each titled map is different from the next. That means that each examination is unique. You will get different maps year after year. A map, a topographical map of a location in South Africa. So, no matter what map you're using, it is about the knowledge that you have on map work and your ability to apply it to different maps that you're being examined on. So, irrespective of the map title that you get, you've got to be able to use your skills and knowledge in that examination. Further to that, use as many different map titles to practice measurements and calculations. By this, we simply mean there's various different titles of maps. When you are, for example, calculating the area of an object on a map, use different maps. It all amounts to the same formula, magnetic declination. The more different maps you use, the better you are exposed to the different calculations for this particular question. Practice being able to identify and differentiate geographical features. Now, what do you know? On every map, there is a reference containing the symbols that are used on a map. So, referencing the symbols is important, ensuring that you understand the different symbols used to indicate features. For example, roads, railway lines, power lines. For example, rows of trees, mining areas, in terms of excavations. So the reference on a map helps you better locate the different features. And remember also that orienteering the topographical map and photograph is important in locating and aligning the different features. Now, what does orienteering mean? It simply means when you get your topographical map and your orthophoto map, you have to be able to locate the position of where the photograph is on the map, simply by aligning features like roads and railway lines. This would assist you in understanding both on the topographical map and the orthophoto map the same features. Remember that sometimes there are words on the map that may not necessarily be on the photograph, or on the photograph that may not necessarily be on the map. Yours is to make sure that you know exactly the photograph and where it's located on the map. This is usually shown as a red block on the map. Always reference the photograph with the red block on the map and then align the features like roads, railway lines, for example. Let's move on. So, let's look at your reading of the examination. Upon receiving the question paper, together with the map and the photograph, the first few minutes should be spent reading the question paper and recollecting and recalling all the knowledge that you will need to answer this paper. So, read through all 4 questions. Have a basic overview of what it is being examined. Where are the answers? Quickly reference the question and the location with the map and the photograph. Don't do this for all, but familiarize yourself with which points are being used on the map. Do not spend too much of time, a maximum of 5 to 10 minutes, just reading through the paper. You must be able to locate the map and photo location in South Africa. Now, whatever map is chosen for South Africa, always refer to the general information sheet. This would tell you the exact location of where this map is in South Africa. What's important is, once you get a perspective of where in South Africa it is, already your geographical knowledge and theory comes back. If it's on the East Coast, if it's on the West Coast, if it's located in central South Africa, the climatic conditions, the geomorphological features, the types of settlements, all are influenced by its location, as well as the economy of that specific location. So reading the general information sheet on that map is crucial, and it also assists you in multiple choice, where some of the questions from the general information is asked on the multiple choice. Let's look at time management. You must spend at least 1 minute for every 1 mark. Now, let's refresh our memories. You've got a 75 mark paper for 1.5 hours, 90 minutes. So that means that if you spend 1 minute for every mark, you will have at least 15 minutes to check check your responses and know that when you have that time, you'll be able to verify different locations and the answers that you put. So my advice would be work for 1 minute, 1 mark for every minute. That would give you a 75 mark, 75 minutes, and allow you 15 minutes of extra time. Great. We're doing well. You will answer those marks and so in 75 minutes. You are now left with approximately 15 minutes to check all your responses thoroughly, including phrasings, punctuations, sentence structures, as well as the questions that you've answered. Now, what type of questions are there in a geography paper 2? As we've indicated, you've got multiple choice questions, you've got calculations, as well as application and interpretation of both geographical theory as well as GIS concepts. Moving on, note the following: the cognitive demand. How difficult is this examination? Let's look at it closely. 25% of all questions are located in the easier sections. That means simple defining concepts, listing concepts, stating concepts. What is also important here is this provides you with an opportunity to score marks. So remembering as well as being able to locate on a map will score you the mark. When it comes to application, remember you've got to determine, explain, or calculate. The entire question 2 is based on calculations. And what is required of you is to apply your knowledge of calculations on this map. That means measuring different distances, calculating angles on the map. This will help you better apply your knowledge to the map. And of course, the level of difficulty increases with the discussion, analysis, as well as evaluation type questions. Here, we're talking specifically to question 3 and 4, where higher order thinking skills are required, bringing in that geographical knowledge and applying it to the map. Note the following. This is question 3. So you must be better prepared from your paper 1 knowledge carrying over to paper 2. In that sense, you have the following from the diagnostic report of 2019, which then suggests the pitfalls of some of the responses from previous candidates. For multiple choice questions, learners were encouraged to use capital letters to depict their responses in the appropriate block. Now we're talking here simply about A, B, C, D. And if your answer is B, don't write the small letter b, write a capital letter B. If your answer is A, not the small a, the capital A. Why? The people marking your papers would be better able to see exactly what you've written and give you the mark. You don't want to lose the mark, do you? No, of course not. Now, let's go further. This is to ensure that the response is clear. Capital A, B, C, and D are more easily discernible. Now, if the learner wishes to change the option they selected, they may cross it out as well as clearly write the new choice next to the block. Again, multiple choice questions. If you feel you want to change the answer, neatly strike off the original choice and put your new answer just outside the block, not in the same block. Many learners have lost marks in easy multiple choice questions purely because they did not write their responses clearly. You don't want that to happen to you, do you? Moving on, we're looking at the following. In terms of the 2019 geography paper, in our next segment, we're going to look specifically at some of the pitfalls of multiple choice questions. With that, I'm going to go back to Looney.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Nicolene. Guys, we are going to take a quick break, but don't forget to send any questions and comments that you have so that we can have a look at them and assist you as best as we can. Let's take a quick break and we'll see you straight after this. Welcome Welcome back from the break, Matrix. If you've just joined us, we are going through your exam guide to assist you prep for the upcoming exam. If you are constantly running out of data and you don't have anything to surf the net with, this next competition is just for you. Matrix is bringing you the hashtag WazzoWinner competition, where 2 lucky matriculants stand a chance to win 2 gigs of data. All you need to do to enter the competition is see all the details on our Facebook page. Over to you, Cameron.
Thanks, Looney. So get to those Facebook pages and get that 2 gig of data, don't you? Right, so moving on, we're looking at multiple choice questions. What should you be looking for in terms of the multiple choice question? I'm going to do a breakdown for you of understanding that multiple choice question better. So, this is an example of a typical multiple choice question. Note the sentence. The dominant street plan of Nkotsane residential area at O on the topographical map is, and it ends with an ellipsis. Now, this statement is called the stem, and it is incomplete. But to complete it, one of the options in A, B, C, or D is the correct answer. You have to choose. And when you're looking at it, what you have to understand is you need to match the correct word or statement in A, B, C, or D to the stem. Now, irregular, radial, linear, and grid. Your theoretical knowledge of geography is important. If you understand the concept of street plans, you will know that there's only 3 street plans that are acceptable. So that means that one of the answers should be out. And if I'm looking at it, I should immediately know that there is no such street plan referring to as linear. That means the only answer that is possible is one of either irregular, radial, or grid. Now, what's my next step? I go to the point referred to in the stem on the map and then reference that point. And if you're working with the 2019 examination, you would have realized that the gridiron, the rectangular block pattern, or the gridiron street plan is the correct answer. So my correct answer is D. Now note in your examination, you will have a block. And as we've requested, make sure that the block contains a capital letter of your final answer, not a small letter. It could be that your small letters could be confusing to the person that's marking your script. Let's look at another example. In this particular example, we're looking at the 2018. Again, note the following. Your stem, and it ends with an ellipsis. That means either one of A, B, C, or D, the options matches the stem. Now, what are we examining? We are examining a row of trees on a topographical map in a specific point on that map. And if you study the row of trees as a feature on topographical maps, you will note that when rows of trees are planted, they serve as either windbreaks or fire breaks. So that means that the distractors are farm boundaries as well as plantations. Now, the choice of answer will be dependent on what you're seeing on the photograph. And what you will note is that on the topographical map, you have fire hazards in terms of a location of a specific symbol in that location. Did you see that? Did you study the map appropriately? And what this simply means is your ability to look on the map and find different features would enable you to answer this question better. So in this examination, the correct answer was fire breaks, not windbreaks. Why? Because specific features other than those being examined must be viewed within a block on that map in that particular section. So, guys, are you getting the hang of it? First, read the stem or the statement. We're going to call it the stem. Then look at the options. Understand the content that is being examined and eliminate the options that are not applicable. Then go to the map. Find the location of the point that is being referred to and look for hints and clues that will enable you to answer this question. Multiple choice is simple, but it can get difficult if you don't know what you're looking for. So be precise, be specific, go to the point, and answer the question. Moving on. The next example is an example of what to expect in question 2. Now, question 2 is made up of those calculations. In order for you to be successful in calculations, you need necessary map work equipment. These come in the form of calculators, rulers, pencils, as well as protractors, if you're going to calculate true bearing. But have all these instruments and resources ready, because you never know what you're going to get. So, let's be specific. Today we're going to focus on area, the calculation of area on a topographical map. Now, note the following. In terms of the calculation of area, the formula is length times breadth. Using a ruler, you should be able to measure the length of the object as well as the breadth of the object. Also remember that the formulas for these calculations are always given to you. All you have to do is locate the position of the object being calculated and measure the distances around these objects. It has a length or a long side and the breadth, which is the shorter side. Now, let's look at the calculation and its layout. In terms of this particular example, I measured on my map 10.8, which is the length. Notice the difference in the breadth, which is the shorter side, 0.7. Note, I'm multiplying the length by 100 as well as multiplying the breadth by 100. What does this mean? When I multiply my distances by 100, I am looking for an answer in meters. That means that the question would ask you to either indicate your response in meters or kilometers. In the case of area, meters squared or kilometers squared. In this particular example, I've measured my length as 10.8. I'm multiplying it by 100. Notice my answer, 1080 meters. I measured my breadth as 0.7 and multiplied it by 100, 70 meters. What do? I take now my formula of length times breadth and I get an answer of 75,600 meters squared. Notice the layout, guys, candidates, learners. You must include the unit of measurement. Where's my unit of measurement? Meters. Meters. I'm going to get a different color to show this to you. So when we're looking at it, you're getting a mark for your length as well as your breadth and your final answer. Note the measurements. So this particular calculation carries 5 marks. The measurement of the length, the measurement of the breadth. The conversion from the measurement, centimeters or millimeters, to meters. In this case, centimeters to meters. Once we've converted both our length and breadth to meters, meters times meters is meters squared. Notice the layout and how I get the 5 marks. A lot of the candidates over the years have lost marks purely because they did not follow a logical layout. In order for you to get better at the calculation of area, you must practice this calculation and make sure that you expose it to different maps. Let's look at one more. In this particular example, we're looking at the measurement of area again with the very same formula. I'm going to change that highlighter. Notice the formula, length times breadth. But in this example, I'm using a 0.5 scale. What does that mean? In this case, I want my answer to be in kilometers. Golden rule, multiply by 100 to get your answer to meters, multiply by 0.5 to get your answer to kilometers. So, I measured my distances of 1 centimeter for the length, 0.6 centimeters for the breadth. Multiplying by 0.5 gives me answers of 0.5 kilometers and 0,3 kilometers. When I take these two responses into my formula, I end up with a final answer of 0,15 kilometers squared. Let's allocate marks to this particular example. That means that my measurement is 1 mark for the length. My measurement is 1 mark for the breadth. The conversion getting me to 0,5 kilometers. The conversion getting me to 0,3 kilometers for the breadth. Taking kilometers and multiplying them together gets me to kilometers squared. My final answer gives me the full 5 marks. Again, layout, layout, layout. The way in which you lay out your calculations is going to determine how successful you are in scoring all those necessary marks. Let's move on. So, in the next example, we're going to be looking at calculations. But before we go further, I'd like to offer you some tips. And it's what I've been saying all along. Practice, practice, practice in terms of your map work skills. Ask your teachers to give you as many maps as possible, which you will return when you're done, but use as many maps as possible to calculate areas, magnetic declinations, true bearings, distances, and so on. Because the more you're exposed to different types of maps, the greater your chances of being prepared for whatever map you're going to get in the final exam. So, practice, practice, practice. Moving on, let's look at the following. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Looney for a little break. I'm sure you need one.
Thank you, Cameron. Guys, let's take a quick break and we'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, guys. We are in the final stretch of the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to enter that competition. There is still a bit of time. Head on over to our Facebook page and get all of the details. Camlin, I won't waste any more time. Straight to you.
Thanks, Looney and Nicolene. And guys, question 3. Map work application and interpretation. So what do you need to do here? You need to come together and bring all your geographical knowledge from Geography Paper 1 into Geography Paper 2 in order to answer these questions. Application of climate and weather, geomorphology, rural and urban settlements, as well as economic geography. What I've done for you is I've taken the past 5-year papers and will show you what is being examined for you to be better prepared on what to expect when it comes to the examining techniques over the past 5 years and what to expect in your examination. Let's look at it closely. The first example, of course, is climate and weather. And when looking at the examination papers, we found the following. In 2014, the examination was in Cullinan. I'm going to change the color so that you see this better. The map of Cullinan. And in that particular examination, precipitation was examined. What is this? Is this a high rainfall area, a seasonal or annual rainfall? What does this mean? If you were able to reference the general information, you would have found a location of Cullinan and then been able to determine if it falls in a high rainfall or seasonal rainfall area, or if we say high rainfall, you can refer to as annual rainfall. But nevertheless, when we're examining precipitation, you've got to look at where in South Africa does that particular location lie. In 2015, on the map of Queenstown, again, the type of rainfall as well as valley climates. You know what I'm talking about, the microclimate within a valley, your anabatic and your katabatic winds. And what was this question all about? You had to look on the map and determine the slope. And once determining the slope, determine if it is an anabatic or a katabatic wind. So, simply put, can you see how the theory is now being examined on the map? And your ability to identify where that slope is by simply looking at the contour lines. Notice, in 2016, on the map of Volkswagen, valley climates was again examined. So, the ability of the candidate to locate the slopes on a map and then determine whether it's an anabatic or katabatic wind. Now you should remember the following. Anabatic, day winds. Katabatic, night winds. So, read the question. This would be better able you to get the answer right. Let's look at the next one on climate. So, looking at climate again, in the 2017, which the map of Paris was used, again, precipitation, meaning the examining of the type of rainfall in Paris. And in this example, we had the examining of urban climates. You know what I'm talking about, the urban heat island in the developed area, which is usually reflected as a gray area on your map. So what does this mean? Notice how we again integrating the different topics in climate and weather into the map. In 2018, on the map of Pietermaritzburg, it was valley climates. And then again in 2019, valley climates. Can you see, guys? Do you know what to do when you're integrating climate onto a map? Look at these past papers, study them. Make sure you're identifying the content of climate and weather in order for you to know what to expect in future examinations. Let's go further. The next one we're going to look at is geomorphology. In 2014, on the map of Cullinan, the direction of stream flow. Now, common on many maps is to identify in which direction the stream is flowing. All you have to do is use your contours as a reference, the spot heights, the trig beacons. These enable you to see where the landscape is higher and where the landscape is lower. What does this mean? Obviously, the river flows from a higher point to a lower point. What clues are there on the map? Yes, your trig beacons, your spot heights, your contour lines, and these give you the height of the landscape above sea level, which means that you should be able to use these heights to determine the direction of flow. Moving on to the 2015 Queenstown map, again, the direction of stream flow and fluvial formations. Fluvial formations, your ability to identify the formations such as waterfalls, rapids, meanders, as we discussed in paper 1, and various others that are located in that location of the map that you're being examined on. Can you see lots of theory here, and your knowledge needs to come together and integrate on a map. In 2016, on the maps of Falklands, the direction of stream flow, again, whether the river is flowing in a northerly, southerly, easterly, westerly, southeasterly, all that is simply determined by the heights on a topographical map. Moving on, we look at the 2017 map of Paris. Again, stream patterns. You know what I'm talking about. The dendritic stream pattern, which resembles branches of a tree. So, common in South Africa, one of the most common drainage patterns is the dendritic pattern. And if you look at these questions, give a reason for your answer. Resembles branches of a tree. However, you need to find the reference point according to the block reference in your question. In the same paper, drainage density. And note the following: the ratio between the length of streams and the total area covered by that drainage basin. So you would have had to know the formula for drainage density as well as its definition, and then be able to apply it onto a map. And simply put, this is about whether the area is a high drainage density or a low drainage density. Your ability to see a river system with fewer tributaries and a river system with more tributaries. Moving on, onto the 2018 Pietermaritzburg map, fluvial formations. And notice on your East Coast maps, or those maps in South Africa that lie to the east, lots of fluvial formations. So know them and be able to locate them on the map. In 2019 Pongola, we talked types of rivers as well as fluvial formations. Remember, when it comes to types of rivers, we are talking to permanent rivers. Okay? And how are permanent rivers represented on a map? As perennial streams. These are continuous blue lines, meaning those rivers are permanent. You know what I'm talking about when it comes to types of rivers. Permanent, periodic, yes, exotic, and episodic. Note how the reference in the map refers to different types of rivers as perennial or non-perennial. Remember, your perennial is permanent, so it's a continuous blue line. Your non-perennial is periodic, only flows sometimes during the rainy season. Does not necessarily mean that you cannot identify it. So simply put, a broken blue line has got to tell you that it's periodic, and a continuous blue line is a permanent river. Let's move on to the next examining section, which is settlement geography. Note in the 2014 paper, settlement patterns as well as land use. All maps have land uses, and within these land uses, we classify them according to land use zones. Your ability to identify a residential area, an industrial area, the CBD of that location, Central Business District. In the 2015 paper, we looked at land use again. And also remember that when you're talking to your rural-urban fringe, you are talking to mixed land uses outside the CBD. Aspects of land use like, for example, golf courses, airports, cemeteries. Use the reference, locate these different features on the map, and you'll be able to more or less determine what kind of land use is going on. The 2016 map of Volksrust, again, settlement patterns. And note the following. When it comes to settlement patterns, especially in rural, we have two types. Yes, nucleated and dispersed. Remember, nucleated are clustered or close together. Dispersed are spread out. The settlement is located far from each other. In this particular map, we examined that. Land uses again, and urban hierarchy. Your urban hierarchy tests you on central places. Concepts like threshold population, range, as well as the order of goods and services. Bringing all that knowledge from theory onto a map, using it to apply, is crucial. Moving on to your settlement examples, we had the 2017 map, which tested the site and situation of settlements. Bringing back your theory, notice the following. Cite the exact piece of land. Situation in relation to other aspects found on the map. Go back to the location. Is there a road? Comment on this type of slope. If it's a steep slope, it's a site factor, okay? Because that steep slope is going to determine how the pattern of that settlement unfolds. So, look at 2018. Again, site and situation of settlements. Again, trying to look at the factors that determine whether the site factor or the situation factor influence the location of the settlement. What you have to do is look for evidence on the map that would suggest why it is a site factor or a situational factor. Go back to theory, guys. Cite the exact piece of land. Keyword, exact. Situation, the relationship between the settlement and its surrounding area. What factors are there? Notice in 2019, Pongola, settlement patterns as well as land use. So generally, when it comes to rural and urban settlements on topographical maps, you will note how the questions are structured through your studying and be able to provide the necessary evidence. Let's move on to the economic geography on the map. And in this example, the 2014 map included mining as well as agricultural activities. And how is mining shown? As excavation or mine dumps. Go back to your features or the key reference purposes, and you will be able to locate both your mine dumps as well as excavations to identify mining on a map. What about agricultural activities? Crop farming. How do you identify crop farming on a map? Excellent. Yes, cultivated land. Reference cultivated land as green on a map. The more greenery on a map, the greater the chances of cultivation, meaning farming is taking place. In this 2015 map, again, agricultural activities as well as transport. Now, when it comes to transport, we're looking at different types of roads on a map. National roads, main roads, other roads. Using your reference, you should be able to locate these different types of roads and its location in determining the settlement and its location. In 2016, we looked at agricultural activities as well as industrial activities. Here, both primary and secondary activities. Now, note the following. Secondary activities always occur closer to the CBD, generally in a light industrial form. When it's a heavy industry, it's located further on the outskirts of the CBD. So, key in this aspect is your ability to locate, identify, and then explain for your response. Moving on, we've got more economic geography. In the 2017, there was no economic geography. So you got away on that one. But in 2018, you had agricultural activities, industrial activities. 2019, agricultural and industrial. What does this mean? When it comes to economic geography, your ability to recognize primary, secondary, in some cases tertiary activities on a map is important, and you should be able to locate it using the reference points on the map. So I hope that map applications is giving you some insight of the requirements that you need to take from Geography Paper 1 to Geography Paper 2. Now we're going to move on to the most exciting of all sections in geography, GIS, Geographical Information Systems. If you have a broader understanding, it is how technology is changing our geography. It is how we bridge the gap between technology and our geographical world and understand it better. This has helped many across the world, especially during times of crisis. And as these examples will show you, you will better understand why GIS is so important. Let's start off as follows. What is GIS? Note the definition. A geographic information system is a framework for gathering a keyword, managing a keyword, and analyzing data. What does this mean? It is a system, and a system is made up of various different parts. What are these parts? Managing, gathering information, managing information, and analyzing information. Another definition could be is a computer program for storing, retrieving, analyzing, and displaying information. So, these two definitions give you a basic understanding of what to expect in GIS. Basically, a computer program responsible for gathering, storing, managing information so that we can make it user-friendly for everybody else out there. Geographers are becoming more and more important to the rest of the world. Moving on, we find that we're looking at data standardization. Now, here's something to think about. What is this symbol that we're looking at? This particular symbol is seen throughout the world. Yes, it's the COVID-19 symbol. And why is it important? Because no matter where you are in the world, whichever country you exist in, this symbol has gone internationally. And no matter where you are, what you're seeing is COVID-19. This process of agreeing on a symbol is called data standardization around the world. What does it mean? It is the process of bringing data into a common format that allows for collaborative research, large-scale analytics, and sharing of sophisticated tools and methods. What this simply means, guys, for you to get a broader understanding is that data standardization brings together different types of information into one standard format. For us to recognize COVID-19, it would be very, very difficult across the world if we use different symbols. So what has the World Health Organization decided? One symbol that represents COVID-19 internationally. And what do we call this? Data standardization. I hope you are getting the picture here of applications of GIS. Moving on, we find that the following is a buffer. Now, I'm sure you've seen this picture. Everywhere you go, Today, there are many, many stores that have markers on the floor that keep the distance from the person in front of you and the person behind you. Now, you call it social distancing. As a geographer, you should be saying a buffer. What is a buffer? A buffer is a useful proximity analysis. Let's make that into simple language. A buffer is an area that is defined by bounding a region determined by a set of points at a specified maximum distance from all nodes along segments of an object. Let's look at this diagram and understand it. Here's one point, here's another point. Between these 2 points is a distance. That distance is called a buffer. It's a means to separate 2 different points. Now, on a map, you should be thinking about points and lines. Along points and lines, you may have buffers. Yes, think of a river system. Along a river system, it is best to protect the river banks. What is being done in South Africa currently? To protect the river banks, we create buffers on either side of a river in order so that no encroachment can occur into that river system in the form of soil erosion. Well done, guys. Can you see the GIS working for you? Can you see the applications? How do we use buffers? Good. Let's move on. So in terms of GIS, remember, it's all about knowledge as well as application of concepts to the real world. Ensure that you have the keywords locked in for every concept that is studied in GIS. There's many concepts in GIS. All you have to do is extract the keyword from each of those concepts and remember them to make meaning. And with that, I want to wish you good luck for your exams. Best wishes. Thanks to Looney and Nicolene. Back to you, Looney.
Thank you, Cameron. Matrix, it's been an awesome show as always, and a big congratulations to all of our competition winners who will be announced on the Facebook page after the show. We still do have some more revision shows for you guys, so please check out the schedule on www.wasamatrix.co.za. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. From me, Looney, Nicolene, and Camlin, thank you and goodbye.